The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. I see you all joining there. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us and learn about this tool and all these new changes. I'm going to give just a minute or two to allow everyone else to continue joining. But to introduce myself, my name is Katie Spokley. Thank you again for joining us. Before we get started, you'll see in the chat that I mentioned that Bob will be doing a Q&A at the end of his presentation. So please drop those questions in the questions section or the chat, and he'll address them after he's done with the presentation. And we'll make sure to get to as many as possible before we're out of time. Also, just a reminder, we will be sending out a recording of this webinar in the next day or two. So please keep an eye on your inboxes for that. You'll be able to reference all of the information that we're going over today so that you can utilize it as you handle your year-end processing. Okay, well, it looks like we've got a good portion of attendees here. So I think we'll get started. Many of you may know Bob Cole. He's our presenter today, and he's the Managing Director of Business Central Add-ins. He'll be chatting about the 1099 Toolkit for Microsoft Business Central and Dynamics Nav, and its new features addressing the new 1099 NEC form. So take it away, Bob.
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction, and as was said, then most of you probably know me. We've had the 1099 toolkit. In fact, I know that there are a couple attendees here that have had it for several years. We have drastically redesigned it. And there's some new news that just came out, which many of you may know about from Microsoft in the last few days. And we'll be talking about that. So the first thing we want to do is say, what is it we're going to talk about here? We're going to look at the new IRS MISC and 1099 NEC forms. They have changed. Both of them have drastically changed. We're going to review the current Business Central and NAV capabilities, and I will discuss the latest release information that Microsoft has provided, that they in fact do have a release now that has the NEC form, and we'll talk about what's involved in what it can do and what it can't do, and what's involved in getting it installed in your software. We're also going to look at the Business Central and NAV limitations. What can it not do that it ought to be able to do? Then we're going to go over and take a look at the 1099 toolkit in Business Central, and we'll talk about the product features and then look at it, and then we'll move on to questions and answers. So this is the new MISC form. And the biggest one that's going to affect most people is the fact that Box 7 is no longer for non-employee compensation, clearly. But that's not the only change. In fact, they've changed 5 of the boxes on here. They've added a new box. This is brand new this year. And they've deleted a box that was existing in last year. I think it was 15A. Anyway, so this whole MISC form is redesigned for this year, and this is the new non-employee compensation form. It has only one box for the non-employee compensation amount. So this is what the problem is this is one of the problems. One is that unless you get the update from Microsoft, which we'll talk about that in a second, then you can't print the 1099 NEC, nor will you be able to print accurate information in the various boxes in the MISC form because they've all changed. So what is it that the current version of Business Central can do? You can assign 1099 DIV. This is today. This is for all versions of NAV back to version 1.0 in 1994, and up until today, if you don't have the update. You can assign 1099 DIV, INT, and MISC, the various different codes 1 through 16 today. and you can assign them to vendors, and that will automatically pass the code on to posted transactions. Now, you can't you can't change it, but you can assign it. Print 1099 DIVs, INTs, and MISC documents, and that's fine. There is a limitation to that, and we'll talk about that. Create the file for upload to the IRS. It's called, from the old days, Vendor 1099 Magnetic Media. Of course, it's not magnetic media anymore. It's everything's all digital, but they didn't change the name. Now, this is a pretty limited amount of functionality. Let's see what it doesn't do that it ought to do. Business Central limitations. They're up in today. If you don't have the upgrade, there is no 1099 NEC. Further, you can't assign the NEC to any vendors or payments because it's not in the tool in the box, the IRS box list. So that's a problem. A further problem is you have all year long you've been assigning what turns out to be the wrong code to all of your payments. There's no way in Business Central or NAV to recode what used to be, for example, 1099 MISC 07 to the new NEC 01. You will have to go in manually and go to every vendor and every invoice and every payment and manually do it yourself, if you can find them all. There's no way to be able to take a look and make sure that all of your federal IDs are correctly entered. I have personally seen people who have missing federal IDs. If you have a missing federal ID, it will not print a 1099. I've seen situations where some of my customers didn't realize that they had a typo in the federal ID and it wasn't 9 characters. That's a problem. What happens if you accidentally duplicate a 1099? What happens if you don't have a code on a payment? Obviously, if there's no code on the payment, I apologize for this, I can't stop it. There is no place to review what payments have been made or credit memos have been applied and what 1099 codes have been applied to it and what the 1099 amount is. Now, we found out actually in the new version that because I've installed the new version. I've installed the update in NAV 2018. It used to be that there was a minimum reportable amount of, for example, for non-employee compensation of $600. It didn't matter what the amount was that you paid the vendor. If it was $100, $300, $500, or $1,000, even if it was below the 1099 minimum reportable amount, it would still print a 1099. Now, I believe that has been fixed in this latest release. Another problem that you have today is you can't make only part of a payment reportable. So reportable information on a 1099 is a labor portion. You shouldn't have to report material or shipping and handling. Those aren't reportable amounts. But in NAV and Business Central, the entire invoice is marked as reportable. Well, if I were receiving a 1099 from one of my customers and it told me that I owed tax on $3,000 when in fact I only owed it on $650, I wouldn't be very, very happy. And while it's possible to fix it in the new version, it's not easy, and you have to know how to do it. The final function is, although you can create the file for upload to the IRS Fire portal, you can't actually upload it. So the toolkit, and even if you don't get the update, and this is in lieu of the update because if you're going to put the update in place, if you have Business Central, the update was released for the most recent version. If you want to apply that version and you don't have the latest release of Business Central 14, 15, 16, 17, then the first thing you have to do is upgrade it to the latest release, then apply it. And in order to do that, you have to uninstall all modifications and all other apps that you may have put in added to your system. Then you upgrade to the latest release. And I think in Business BC 14, it's release 36. And if you don't have release 36, you have to get to release 36 before you build 36 before you can import the update. That I just talked to one other partner, and he said that's a minimum of $2,000 to help a customer do that.
The 1099 Toolkit obviously does have the new NEC form, regardless of whether or not you had downloaded the new version. In order to be able to download the toolkit, either for NAV, which by the way is limited to NAV 2016, 17, and 18, nothing older than 2016 is available for this recent the recent release that they just made. If you're going to add the new release, you will need to upgrade NAV 2016, 17, and 18 to include it. Somebody's going to have to go in and do a merge in order for you to get it. If you're in Business Central, it's a little more complicated because you have to be on the current release of whichever version you're on. If you're on BC 14, 15, 16, or 17, you have to be on the most recent release. Before you can apply the update, you will need to upgrade Business Central. In order to upgrade Business Central, you have to uninstall any modifications and any apps that you might have applied. Then you upgrade it, and then you reinstall all of your apps. And this is something I had. Yes. So this is something that I spoke to a NAV partner, and he said it would probably end up it would probably take at least 1 to 2 days, and he just doesn't have the time in order to be able to upgrade everybody who's going to need it. So this 1099 toolkit will quickly solve a lot of problems. It contains the new NEC 1099 document and codes. It also facilitates reassigning everything that you posted during the past year before you knew that there was going to be a problem. So all your vendors, all your invoices, credit memos, and payments, we have a tool that will upgrade it from, for example, MISC 07 to NEC. So you can quickly reassign codes to everything that you've had in the past. Any code to any other code. Who knows? This may happen again. We do respect reportable minimum amounts. Now, I understand that the new version does respect minimum reportable amounts. So if you're using the NEC form and the minimum reportable amount is 600, in the past, Microsoft did not respect that. If you had a payment of $300 and the minimum reportable amount was 600, the vendor got a 1099 anyway. We also provide a worksheet for you to be able to review what's going to be, what the current coding is, and adjust any payment coding as necessary. We also allow payments to be partially reportable. This is a real problem. If you've paid an invoice to a vendor, which is part of it is reportable and part of it isn't, like, for example, shipping and handling is not a reportable amount. Merchandise is not a reportable amount. Labor is. So if you're using NAV, now Business Central has given the opportunity to be able to edit this. However, it's buried very deeply, and without going into redesign, technical redesign, you won't be able to have access to the field to do it. It's part of our toolkit. We also provide a couple reports to be able to visualize what the 1099 totals are. And we have the mechanism to not only create the file to upload, but also upload it. Finally, If you are not going to upload it electronically and you're going to print and mail your 1099s to the IRS, they require that you have a summary document, a 1096 summary document for each type of 1099 that you're going to be mailing. So you have to have a 1096 for MISC, you have to have another 1096 for NEC. Interestingly enough, neither NAV nor Business Central don't have now, even with the update, and have never had the ability to print a 1096 form. So we give you the 1096. Okay, now let's try and get over and take a look. And I'll bet you that's what the problem was. I have a button here that says that I'm muted. But anyway, okay, so let's take a look over here. We've added a 1099 toolkit function, and we've added it to, if we go into personalize, or my settings, we go to my settings, you can see the role business manager. So we've added this 1099 toolkit function to the business manager role. You'll be able to see this in all of our 1099 functions. So the first thing that needs to be done is you need to have the open up the Fire setup. Click on the pencil in order to edit. If you're going to upload to the IRS electronically, you must have a TCC number, a transmitter control number, a control code. The IRS assigns this. If you don't have one and you want to upload electronically, you must apply using the IRS publication 4419 to be able to be assigned a TCC number. This is something the IRS says on their website. It could take up to 45 days. So it's at this point, it's a little bit late because the IRS Fire portal is shut down completely until after the first week of January for annual maintenance and update. You can't get in there. You can't get a TCC number even if you apply today. The federal ID number comes from the company information. This is the only field on the screen that is not editable. On your company information, you should have your own federal ID number, and it will populate here automatically. The rest of this populates, and you'll want to put in the fiscal year start and end date that you're reporting, which will automatically apply filters throughout the system. The default IRS amount, frequently I've seen situations where although the payment was made, there is no 1099 amount, and we're going to see that in just a second. If you enable this, it will automatically make the 1099 reportable amount equal to the invoice amount. All right, so this is the basic setup. First thing that you want to do, because you don't have an NEC form right now, is you need to go to New and say Initialize 1099 IRS Form Box and create the new NEC 1099. So when you do that, and this is critical, you can go to the IRS Form Box. Now, this is native NAV and BC. This is the standard one that when you do a lookup in order to be able to assign a code to a vendor, this is the list you're going to work on. This has been changed. First of all, there is a new NEC 01 field, okay? That's the one that you're going to need to assign for non-employee compensation. MISC 07 has changed, so this needs to be updated. In fact, 5 fields of the MISC form have changed. One is new. There's a new field on there, state tax withheld, and there is one that has been discontinued. So it has been deleted. So when you click on that button, it's going to create all of the forms that you need in the list in order to be able to assign it. That's the first step. The second step is to go back over to here, and let's just take a look and see what happens when you do it. If we go over to here, we have a 1099 vendor worksheet. This is one of our pages. When you open it up, you're going to see a list of all the payments and credit memos that have been made and how they are chargeable amount is. This is the amount that's going to appear on the 1099, regardless of what the invoice amount is or what the payment amount was. Okay, so if this payment to Furniture Industries is $36.23, that's what's going to appear on the 1099, although it might be wrong. Also, all of your MISC 07s are wrong. So what do we do about that? We go over to that setup, and the new function, update IRS code, is now going to, we say, which one do we want to update? And we're going to update the 1099 MISC 07. And what do we want to update it to? We want to update it to the NEC 01. Click OK, and it's done. Everything throughout the database has now been updated, and let's go in and see it. So we go to the 1099 toolkit and back to the worksheet, and now all of the MISC 07s have been recoded to be NEC 01s, and all of the vendor cards have also. So now you can print them. That's how simple it is. Now this function that I just showed you is not in the update from Microsoft. Now, the next thing, this is a very valuable screen because you may have amounts that should not be reported. This is the IRS 1099 amount. This is actually technically a field in Business Central and in NAV, but you can't see it. And even if you go to personalize, it's not in your field list. You have to go into the design mode and make it available. But this is what both Microsoft and what we use when we create 1099s. Now, maybe these are all reportable and maybe they aren't. As I look down this list, I look at this one for $36.23. This looks suspicious to me. So I highlight the invoice for this payment. So I open it up, and son of a gun, I bought a whole bunch of chairs, and I had some consultant services for interior design for $650. This is reportable. This isn't. So I take the $650 and I edit this to be $650, and now this is what's going to get reported. Had I not edited this, that full amount would have been reported, and had I received that 1099, I would not have been happy. So this is one of the main things, is it allows you to research all of the various different pieces of information, verify that a 1099 code is present. Here are some things. This one doesn't have a 1099 code. So we could add it if we wanted to, if we needed to. We could say this is an NEC also. And this will then apply against any payments that were made for this vendor. So the 1099 amount will be the sum of all payments minus all credit memos that are applied against against payment invoices. So that's a little confusing, but that's the way Microsoft does it now, and that's the way we do it also. The problem is you can't get at this information. So you go through, you research whatever needs to be researched. We've actually put in a place where if you need to have input from other people, you can enter in comments and questions and have discussions about whether or something is reportable or not, or entirely reportable. Once you finish with this, you can go in and visualize how it's going to look. We have the vendor detail. So the vendor detail report shows you what has been coded by which type. This is what the London Postmaster, okay, has been coded to be MISC 09. And it's actually, we've adjusted this to be an MISC 06. This is the amount, and this is what's going to appear in the MISC 06 box. Here we have AR Day, property management. These are all MISC 01, which is for rent, okay? Now, there were two opening entries, two large payments for opening entries that we decided should not be on the 1099, so we edited them out, but these two are going to be on there for a total of $2,400. So vendor by vendor, we can go down. Grass Blue, our our yard maintenance company. We now have changed the MISC 07 to NEC 01, and this is the amount that's going to appear. So this gives you detail line by line and document by document. We also have the ability to go in and show summary information. This is what's going to actually appear by summary, by total amounts. So there's your London Postmaster. He's going to get an MISC, and there's going in the box 6 there'll be 700, and box 8 there'll be 800, and box 9 there'll be 3,000. So this will tell you box by box how much is going to appear once you do it, so you can eyeball it and verify that it's correct. At that point, you start going in and printing. Here, you can print the 1096 and the 1099. So we go in, and this will fill in automatically, and you can say, I want to print my 1099 MISC, and it will then print the 1096 and all the 1099s for that code, okay? Or if you're going to upload, then okay, print your 1099 NEC or print your MISCs or INTs. Let's take a look at the MISC. We can preview it. And there's the one that we had for AR Day for the property management, and that's the 2,400 that we saw in the worksheet. So we know what's going to print on the 1099 before we actually print them. And there's no way that you can do that in NAV or BC. Same thing with the NEC. Maybe we want to take a look and see what those are going to be before we print them. So there we have Furniture Industries. Now, you remember that Furniture Industries, originally that payment was for $3,600, and we edited it down to $650. This is what's going to go on the 1099, and that's correct. Had you done it through Microsoft NAV or Business Central, they would have gotten a 1099 for the full amount. Finally, you print them. If you're going to upload them, again, you make sure that you have your TCC number, all of the information is filled out, and you go into Actions, create the FIRE file, and then upload it to the IRS, and then you're done. That's the 1099 toolkit. It solves a lot of problems. So even for people that have NAV 2015, the new release from Microsoft is not available, or 2013 R2 or any of the older versions. They've stopped supporting anything older than 2016. But this can get you going in a matter of minutes. It's that simple. And it has all of the capabilities you need and all of the research tools in order to make sure that your 1099s are correct. So that pretty much is what we've got. Any questions? Let's open it up. Let's see how much. Oh, look at that. We've got time after all.
Yes, we do have a few minutes here to answer some questions. So to all of our attendees, if you have any questions about the presentation, please feel free to put them in the questions feature or in the chat. I have a first question here for you, Bob.
Yes.
Someone asked, They said historically the IRS 1099 amount on the invoice, not the payment, needed to be managed. Has that changed?
No, it hasn't changed, and Microsoft has not made it easy to do. It is possible. You can do it if you know where to look and how to do it. First problem is you have to find out which document you need to edit. And that's not easy to find because there's no list of documents that are going to be subject to reporting. That's what the worksheet is for. But yes, the 1099 amount is what's supposed to print on the 1099, not the full amount. Up until this latest release, the full amount will print regardless of what the 1099 amount says. And you can't even see the field 1099 amount unless you know go into the development and add it to the development environment and add it to your system. It's not a field that you can add in personalization or in the choose columns function in NAV.
Excellent. Okay, our second question here. Someone wants to know what versions of NAV will the 1099 toolkit work with?
So we're planning on releasing it for 2015 to 2018 and Business Central 14, 15, 16, and 17 on-prem. Unfortunately, there just isn't enough time to be able to submit it to Microsoft in order to get it available through the App Store. I'd love to be able to get it done, but it takes several weeks, and it takes several weeks of preparation, and then at least a week or two once it's been submitted for Microsoft to come back. And typically they'll find something wrong that has to be corrected, and we have to resubmit it. I just don't see that we're going to be able to get it done for AppSource this year. But all of the on-prem versions, and back to 2015 is our initial thought. If somebody needs it to go back to 2013 R2, we can do that. 2013 is difficult because there are some differences. 2009, if I have enough people that want it, it's going to take some development time to do it. And if I have 6 or 8 or 10 people who want it for 2009, we can make that happen.
Thank you. One attendee wanted to know, what does the toolkit cost?
So normally I don't quote prices, but I don't want to play games in this. The price to purchase it outright is $17.50, and that gives you ownership with unlimited users and only the annual maintenance going forward. And that doesn't matter if it's Business Central on-prem or it's NAV. If you want to use a subscription payment once you're in Business Central, we would charge $700 a year. I'm sorry, $700 a year. We decided not to do monthly subscriptions because you don't really need it from February to December. So we'll charge $700 per year for the system, and it can be implemented in a matter of less than an hour.
Great. Someone asked the question, do you provide the information on the from to boxes?
The from to boxes are, well, let's see. Let's go back and take a look. This was originally designed my thought when I had my developers design it was that you're going to be mostly concerned with recoding all of your MISC 07 entries, which used to be the non-employee compensation, over to the new form. And at first, what we thought we would do is just have a button that does it. And then it dawned on me that the IRS may just do something else in the future, and we might have to recode some other one. Or you may have accidentally coded something incorrectly, so that you can go in and you can say from any code. But the intent in this design was that I knew that it was going to be necessary to recode the old MISC 07, which was non-employee compensation. So this is the one that we were primarily interested in, but I said, why hard code it when we can make it adjustable should there be a future need? But for 99% of the entries, that's what is going to need to be set, and that will prepare it for use in the new NEC form.
Great.
Anything else?
One last question that we had here is, when will you be able to test the upload to the IRS portal?
We will have to test it right after the IRS releases the lock, which will be after the first week. We're gonna have the files already prepared and ready to test. And if it's necessary that we provide an update, everybody who starts work on it, if it's purchased, and we have a list of everybody who's bought it, they will get an update for us at no charge that can simply be applied in order to be able to correct anything that we overlooked. But it will, but further to that, until after the first week in January, nobody will be able to will be able to apply for a TCC number, and nobody will be able to test any uploads. In fact, it's not technically mandatory to have your upload done until January 31st. As anybody who has filed 1099s know, I was talking to one guy who said he got a 1099 in July. So even though you're supposed to have them done by January 31st, if you didn't have them done, you wouldn't be the first.
All right. Great. Okay, we just got one last question in here.
Sure.
If your company already utilizes the toolkit, do you need to ask your rep to get an update for the new forms, or is this automatic? That's a great question.
Make sure that you ask your rep, and I'm going to guess I know where this is coming from. I saw the registration, the people from Moran were on here, and you're entitled to get this update at no charge. Get in touch with your people at Access IT, and I will send the file over for them to be able to update them. Because
Wonderful.
you really need this, and it's really simple to update for you.
Absolutely. And for those who are asking about slides, we will be sending the recording of the webinar, and we can also send slides if that would be useful to any attendees. So just all right. And I think that is it for questions. But as always, if anybody has any lingering questions, something that they forgot to ask, please feel free to reach out to Bob. You can find his contact information at the end of the presentation. And again, we will be sending out the recording and the slides to you within a day or two. So keep your eyes on your inboxes for that. Also, if there are any partners who are in this webinar today, we do have a partner marketing kit available for you with pre-made email blasts, social media posts, and information about this product if you would like any assistance in marketing it to your customers. So we do have that available. Once again, please feel free to reach out to Bob about that. Any final words, Bob?
No, I can't believe the IRS did this, but in fact, I spoke with the IRS people last Thursday, and I had a couple questions for them, and they are expecting an onslaught in the month of January of people in a panic who suddenly find out that their 1099 MISC form is no longer any good, and they're expecting to have a very busy January. So this will help you take care of it.
Yes, so thank you all so much for spending this time. You gathered some useful information out of it, and we hope that it helps your year-end processing go a little bit smoother. All right, once again, please reach out with any questions, and thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Look forward to talking with all of you.